Hey everybody, I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics. It's Thursday night, which means it's time for shop talk. So stick around, and we're going to be talking some shop. Always appreciate that lead-in video we got from that was made for us by Nick Ellis of Two Brothers Comics. Rest in peace, Two Brothers Comics. Speaking of things that should be in pieces, what's up, Alan? What was that? Oh man. Well, first thing, right out of the gate, I think we ought to just say, hey, if you are affected by Hurricane Helene and all that stuff, guys, we are feeling for you. We're praying for you. If there's anything that we can do, uh, you need supplies, you need your store, whatever. If you need something and we can help, let us know. We'll do whatever we can. We know some folks who are affected by this, like Borderlands Comics and Games in Greenville, South Carolina. They just got their power back on, I think, today. And they organized with one of their local restaurants, a place called Local Q, which apparently has phenomenal barbecue. And they were making and handing out free lunches to people in the neighborhood who just don't have power, don't have food, all that kind of stuff. Anybody from Huntsville who remembers when the big tornadoes came through and we didn't have power here for a week, remember the first time you got a hot meal after that, how special that was? Yeah, that's a pretty awesome thing those guys are doing. Also, our good friend over at Legion of Comics, he's somewhere in the Augusta area, I think, of Georgia. Yeah. They got hit pretty hard too, and they're still dealing with the aftermath of that. So we're thinking about you guys, and if there's anything we can do to help, let us know. And if we can't help with something right away, we might be able to help figure out a way to get there, a way to get something done. We're pretty resourceful folks here, and we were not hit, so we will do whatever we can. So just wanted to let you guys know on that front. All that said, we've got a lot of comics we can be talking to. We got some folks who are watching, but nobody has popped in the chat yet. If you're watching, let us know who's out there so we can talk to you.
I did want to show off a little something that I picked up yesterday.
Okay.
It has finally arrived. We have our Ghost Machine coffee, the Ghost Roast. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Sunday, I do plan on doing a video where we will make a pot and we will try it. So that will hopefully be out next week. I will critique it, talk about a couple of comic books. I may just do like some Ghost Machine reviews. So we just do like the comics and coffee ghost review. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Ooh. So that'll be my video next week. I will do this. I will review Hyde Street and the latest issue of Redcoat because I have not read either one of those yet. So that'll be a good video for next week. And I mean, here's the thing. I take my coffee seriously. I love my coffee. So I will be brutally honest about this, and I'll let y'all know how it is.
Hey, welcome.
What's up?
Appreciate you joining us. Well, we have had guests on the past couple of weeks, and so we haven't really gotten to talk about comics much. Not the ones we've been reading. We talked about making comics, publishing comics, the writing and art of comics, but we haven't gotten to review any that we've been reading. So I feel like we need to jump in and talk about some comics. What you say?
Let's do that. I can say these two for last because we'll end up talking about this one right here, definitely. So right off the bat, I got Knights versus Samurai issue number 1.
I'm glad you picked that up.
I'm going to be honest with you. It started off kind of weak, in my opinion.
I don't disagree.
It started getting good about the middle, and then it got really good at the end. And there was
Yep.
enough there to make me say, okay, I want to see what's going to happen.
Yep, I agree. That's kind of the same take I had on it.
So I was
I just
not.
love the basic idea.
Yeah, the basic idea is really good. I need to be honest about this. I'm not a really big fan of this art style. I would
Okay.
like. It's just not my cup of tea. I mean, it's still good. It fits the story, so I'm fine with it. But I mean, overall, there's definitely enough there to make me want to read issue number 2 to see what is it supposed to be ongoing or a miniseries.
I believe it's 5 issues.
And now that cover is absolutely
Fantastic.
gorgeous.
Yep.
I would love to have a poster of that cover. That's how much I like it.
Yeah, Bill, we will have Mark Spears on when number 2 comes out. And if you want, with his handy feature on YouTube, you can go back and watch it. It would help our numbers if you did.
It always does. Next up on my list was, and I don't really have a ton from last week, which I mean we want to get into 2 other books also, but Green Arrow, Absolute Power tie-in, issue number 16. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this book, and I was never that big of a Green Arrow fan before this book came out. It was one of those that I literally picked it up because it was supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries, and I thought, hey, that'll be a good one to review.
Yep.
Well, it was so good, those 6 issues have turned into 16.
Well,
And
it turned into 12, and then it became an ongoing.
Yeah, and literally issue 16 just as good as issue 1.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it when they do stuff like this. I'm assuming that Williamson will be ending his run on Green Arrow soon.
Probably, but I haven't seen anything to that effect. He's writing other books for DC, so
yeah,
he's got a lot on his plate, and how he balances all that, I don't know, but good for him.
But I mean, and I know I've said it 1,000 times, and I sound like a broken record saying it. If you're not reading Green Arrow, you have no idea how big of a role he actually plays in Absolute Power.
You can start to see it, particularly Wonder Woman 13, and then Absolute Power number 4. It really comes out. But yeah, it's because and your question, whether the role he plays, I'm sure it's a lot more fleshed out in the Green Arrow book.
It really is.
Hang on, we got a question here.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on reprints?
So
I guess it all depends on the book.
As far as a consumer is concerned, and this is actually a really good question for both of us. I can do the consumer side and you can do the retailer side of it.
I can do both.
As far as a consumer is concerned, like Josh said, it really depends on the book. I like it when you get a reprint of something that came out in, say, the 70s or 80s, because it gives people a chance to actually get a physical copy in their hand, to be able to flip through it. Because some of those books, so like that
Detective 27, for example, that facsimile that just came out.
And then there
First
was
appearance of Batman in facsimile form.
Yep, there was also the Werewolf by Night. Was it issue 32? Came out a couple of years ago. They did a reprint of it.
Yep, first appearance of Moon Knight. Yep.
So yeah, I think, honestly, I think they make good display pieces also.
Mm-hmm, they do.
I mean, it's not the original, but I mean, at the same time, who really and truly has the money to go drop, a couple of $1,000, several $1,000s on the first appearance of Batman? But you can still say that you've at least got a copy of it and you've read it. So I'm all for reprints as long as they don't overdo it.
Well, now I think there's a couple of different things too. Like you've got reprints in that form, which are the facsimiles, and then you have second prints, third prints, fourth prints of things that are coming out now that just sold out, right? So we had Mark Spears on a couple of weeks ago, and his first issue of his Monsters comic sold out. So it's gone to a second print. So I'm not quite sure if you, when you say reprints, if you're including things like a second print, third print, that kind of thing in there. I'm a fan of those generally because people want to get in on the ground floor of a book, right? They don't want to, well, I guess I'll just have to wait for the trade or whatever. People want to start at the beginning, and so the reprints are useful in that regard. But I also think uh, we've seen something that's really different the past 3 or 4 years. Reprints, second prints, third prints, that kind of thing used to be they were inferior. If you're going to have a book, you better have a first print. Otherwise, it was not going to be worth a penny on the secondary market. But we have a lot of instances now where third, fourth, fifth prints are actually worth more than the first print because the print runs are so small. And some of those covers are really nice. So there are cases where later printings of a book are worth more than early printings of the book just because of scarcity and that kind of thing. So on the whole, I think they're good as long as it's not overdone. Speaking of, I believe those are scheduled to ship toward the end of November, early December. We'll be getting those in at the shop, and we'll have those for you then.
Yeah, my only thing about second, third, fourth, fifth prints is, remember back in the day when they would do like a second print, the only thing that would change about the cover might have been, say, like the color of it.
Right, like you're thinking New Mutants 87, where the first print was that orange color, but the second print was that gold color. Same thing they did with New Warriors, right? First print was the red, second print was the gold.
Yeah.
They don't tend to do that anymore. That's not how they usually do it.
They have different covers
and things.
I literally hate that because now some of the covers for like the second, third, fourth, fifth print are 1,000 times better than the covers of the original print. And you're like, I got to go buy it just for the, and I don't like just doing cover buys like that.
I don't either, but I would be lying if I said sometimes I don't do it.
I've seen those second print covers, Mark Spears. You're guilty too. Speaking of guilty of something, nice segue. Good job by me. I really
hang on now. No, G.I. Joe is coming back in a huge way, and I could not be happier. So great. The fact that G.I. Joe has landed over with Skybound, and the fact that those guys are clearly huge fans of G.I. Joe and have been their whole lives. There's just an energy behind it, and the way that they have launched this whole Void Rivals universe, the Energon universe that has G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Void Rivals in it. Speaking of which, Void Rivals just came out with a 10th printing, which is insane for number one. But that's how popular it is. But yeah, Transformers' popularity is through the roof. Void Rivals is extremely popular, and G.I. Joe's popularity has really gone sky high. And I think they were very smart because they kept Larry Hama, the original writer on G.I. Joe, continuing his story, and that's a separate pocket universe that's the same as it always has been. Plus, they've got this new Energon universe take on G.I. Joe, so we have both at the same time. It's like having your cake and eating it too. We get to read the classic G.I. Joe continuing, but we also get this new version of G.I. Joe with lots of twists and turns and things that are unfamiliar, but in a really well done way. So it's a combination of, there's some nostalgia, some 80s nostalgia revivalism happening, but there's also just good quality storytelling happening in a really interesting world. And I'm really, really excited for that. But it's the numbers are through the roof everywhere. They're some of the most popular selling titles on the planet right now, and I for one am thrilled about that.
Yeah, then we got the right now all the mini series going on for the new universe that they've started with G.I. Joe, the Energon, and then we're getting ready for the number one. They're bringing the Joes together.
Can I give you a little secret?
No, give me a little secret.
I was just sent a link to a retailer preview copy of G.I. Joe number one.
Mm-hmm.
It took forever to download because it's a big book. But and then I had to do some other things. But I've gotten about 6 pages into it.
Yep.
And I'm so excited.
Excited. This is what I'm excited. Right now I'm excited to see 3 things in it. One, I want to see this version of Scarlet go head to head with this version of Chameleon, I think that's going to be. I think that can be a really good rivalry.
Well, Chameleon's a new character, so yeah, I'm excited for that too.
Yeah. I want to see. I like this version of Duke. What they've done with him.
I like this version of Duke much better. He has a personality. He's not like
Yeah,
Cloakland.
I cannot wait to see how him and Cobra Commander butt heads.
That will be interesting.
And this whole dynamic that they have set up with between the twins and
Tomax and Zaymot and Destro.
Tomax and Zaymot, between the twins and between Destro, how they're going to work together with Cobra Commander. I mean, it's shaping up to be a fun book.
Yeah, I'm in and out during the week. I'm pretty much guaranteed to be there almost every single Saturday, though. But during the week, I'm kind of hit or miss, just depending on the day and the time and all that. But yeah, would love to see you and say, hey, yes, Baroness with the G.I. Joe team rather than the Cobra team. Very interesting. It's automatically a really interesting dynamic. And that's one of the things I'm loving in the first few pages of G.I. Joe #1. It's just a hoot.
You know, and what happens the first time that we have her and Destro come face to face? You know, is there a history there we don't know about? I mean, there's so many possibilities.
There's no way, there's no telling. And that's one of the things that's fun is we get to have these characters we're familiar with, but this whole new voyage of discovery in learning what they're like in this world and who they know and what history they have and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when does that come out?
Not for a while yet. FOC on it's not even for like 2 or 3 more weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it's end of November, I think. It just in time for us to all give thanks for G.I. Joe.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, the Destro series is fantastic. The Scarlet series is great. The Duke series was awesome. The Cobra Commander series. Once I could get over the whole Cobra Law thing, which drove me batty. Once I was able to just say, you know what, it's this other universe, and I can see how it ties into the overarching Void Rivals and Energon universe. Okay, even when that was still just festering and causing me all kinds of heartache, I liked the personality of Cobra Commander. I liked that he was such a manipulator and the way that he was just playing people off of each other.
Issue 3. That's why I was holding up 3 fingers. That was the turning point.
That whole bit where they're torturing him and everything, and then they draw the smiley face in blood on his helmet, and then later on you see the fighting going on outside, and he's just standing there, and you see that smiley face that was awesome.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, I'm with you, but even though when I saw Cobra Law in the beginning of it, I was a little more open-minded about it because it was like, okay, I want to see where they're going to go with it.
I still would have done that differently. I would have depicted Cobra Law differently. But okay, whatever. We can move on. I will say the number of covers for G.I. Joe #1, and once again, I don't like making cover buys, but the number of covers for G.I. Joe #1 and the sheer awesomeness of so many of them. We have 20 subs for G.I. Joe #1, thereabouts. I've ordered more than 50 copies of #1.
Nice. How many? You know what? Let's see what the League of Comic Geeks and see if they got anything posted for them yet.
To answer your question, Bill, yeah, Energon Universe, Cobra Law. Cobra Law is absolutely here to stay, and this is how I was finally able to get over it a little bit. Sidetracked for turning. That's funny. But how I was able to get over it a little bit is the whole concept behind Cobra Law. They're anti-technology, right? It's all organic. It's all natural. It's all this stuff. And then they find out about Energon and that there's this whole world that is all technology all the time. Transformers, Cybertron, There's nothing organic about that. It's all machines and technology. So they have this instant rivalry, this instant hatred, and need to wipe out this horrible thing, which they view as an absolute abomination to nature. Um, and so there's a rivalry there that has nothing to do with GI Joe, but it fits well within the space of the Energon universe, right? So that's one thing. But the other thing, they show up. Cobra Law. If you remember when they launched that little pod ship thing off into space a while back, Cobra Law shows up in Void Rivals number 13. Pythona is on the cover of Void Rivals 13. Uh, so that's the crossover there is becoming very real very quickly. Um, and I think how integrated Cobra Law is with GI Joe, I don't know. Going forward, I suspect there will be some integration, but I think Cobra Law is the bridge that connects the universes into GI Joe universe into the Transformers universe, and I think that's the bridge that they're using to do that. So that makes sense to me.
So, according to League of Comic Geeks, GI Joe #1 Skybound releases November 13th.
Okay, yeah, that tracks too. Oh, what's up, Matt? Um, I've seen the new X-Force series. I have not read any of it yet. Um, I have been off of the X-Men for a long time because it's just been disappointment after disappointment. What happened to me? What'd you
I
do
don't
to
know.
me?
Hang on a second. Let's drop this back down to this.
There you go. But I have not checked out X-Force yet. I have read X-Men #1 and didn't really care for that. I read Uncanny X-Men #1. I did like that pretty well, but it's had another 2 or 3 issues, and I have not caught up on issues 2 and 3 yet.
So I'm guessing this is going to be our cover A, because that's the first one they popped up.
That wraparound cover that is actually the cover A, I think. But
man, this Brett Booth cover is awesome.
I ordered one of those for you because I know what a Brett Booth fan you are.
I mean, these are some good-looking covers. That one is gorgeous.
That Liber Mayho cover is spectacular. I mean, look at the detail on that glove, and then look at the reflection of Duke coming at him. It's really good. That's really, really good.
Now, this might be my favorite right here.
I ordered a few of those.
I hate you so much. Come on, what are you doing? Okay, let's see what else we got. Cover coming soon. That one,
J. Scott Campbell.
David Nakayama.
I said kind of looks like him, but not. Yeah, the Cobra Commander one, Matt, with the reflection in his reflective mask. Yeah, I ordered a few copies of that. But there are so many covers. There are so many.
Oh, now that's pretty sweet right there.
Yes, it is. And no self-respecting G.I. Joe fan who is like diehard the way that I am could be satisfied without picking up several of those. And again, I feel like an absolute hypocrite because I talk all the time. I preach about buying comics for the stories and not the covers. But I just acknowledge my hypocrisy and say I'm still working on myself, and I got a long ways to go when it comes to G.I. Joe.
But you know what? At least
What's up, Nate?
At least this is a forgivable sin.
Maybe not to my pocketbook, but yeah.
Yeah, not to my pocketbook, but still, it's forgivable. All right, so where were we? We were right here.
You know, that's actually not a bad idea, Matt. I wouldn't mind seeing some action figure covers. That'd be pretty cool. They kind of are doing it with some of the 1:10 ratios where it's the artwork looking kind of thing with the explosion going on behind them. but it's not just a straight up action figure in the package like they've done with Star Wars and some of the Marvel books. That's not a bad idea, and I would feel bad because I'd buy those too. I'm
Now,
just such a
see,
sucker.
if they did that, I would like it if they did the classified series action figures and they actually had them posed, like little backgrounds and stuff.
Oh, like they're doing those Todd McFarlane covers
Yeah.
for DC. Yeah, I'd like that.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
We are not talking about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees yet. I haven't had a chance to read it. The first issue sold out before I ever got it. A chance to look at it, and then it was really popular, so you couldn't get it anymore. So the trade has already come and gone. So I've got to get more copies of the trade. Which, don't worry, I have ordered them. Thank you.
Lisa, did you ever read Nothing Special?
Well, woohoo! It's no feet, obviously. Wait, what? That's what Beneath the Trees That Nobody Sees is Silence of the Lambs meets Beatrix Potter? That's terrifying. Ah!
Oh, Lisa, Nothing Special. Oh, crap. What was her name, Josh?
That's the Katie Cook book.
Yes.
The webcomic turned into a comic.
Yes, that book. And I'm pretty sure there's still copies of it up at the store.
Just a couple.
That book is right up your alley. It really is. I mean, it's a great book. What's up, Todd? I'm still waiting on you and Josh to make a decision on when we all getting together and playing some D&D. And I've seriously considered writing my own adventure for Old Gods of Appalachia.
That'd be awesome.
So I'm still, the story's kicking in my head some. Let's get back to some books for a second. I really wish Marvel would stop with this red band crap. There is nothing red band about this.
Nope, not a thing.
I think I saw one panel that might be somewhat questionable, and that was about it.
And that was such a big maybe, but not really. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I am enjoying the story. I love the fact that Moon Knight has showed up.
Yep.
I like the dynamic that they're doing between Jack and Elsa, because
Nate, you need to watch us more because we'll tell you what's good.
Oh yeah, in fact, I'm gonna tell you a couple of books that are really good here in just a minute.
And Nate, you're gonna want to pick up the DC All-In Special, and then you're gonna want to read Absolute Batman #1. I'm just gonna tell you right now.
And actually, so that's really all I had about this. I'm enjoying it. It's been really good art.
That's what the red band is exactly right there.
Yeah,
teasing you, and then you buy it. Where did you think the red band was needed, Todd? I'm curious.
You know what? I mean, we'll just
we've picked up all the red band books. I have, and I think Alan has too. And outside of the very first issue of Blood Hunt, when they first did it, where in one book they just stabbed Blade in the back, and then in the other they cut him in half. I mean, that was about it.
I mean,
it's hang on. I got to talk to him. It's not a reboot. It is not a reboot. It is absolutely 100% not a reboot. It is a new universe. It's like the Ultimate Universe at Marvel.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I just read a preview of Absolute Batman #1, also Absolute Wonder Woman #1. I wanted nothing to do with Absolute Batman. I thought it was going to be stupid. I walked away extremely impressed and really interested in reading the next issue. It is not a reboot in any shape, fashion, or form. The regular universe continues just as it is. It's just a new universe with these characters. and frankly, in a much more relatable way. You're really rooting for them, and it's fascinating. It is brilliantly done, and I'm excited.
So we got 2 comments on here I need to address right quick. First, we're gonna go this one. Hold up. And now we go. Oh, not that one. Now we're gonna go this one. Here's the thing about New 52. There were a lot of comics that were not good in New 52.
The vast majority, I would say.
The vast majority of them. But for the people that tell me that they absolutely hated it and it was not worth it, I think I could all but guarantee there was 2 books that you did not read, because if you read them, your mind would have been changed. And that was Red Hood and the Outlaws was good from beginning to end. And for some reason, that particular run of Green Lantern from New 52 was really good, especially the way they ended it with Sinestro. I mean, it was great.
But what you just said is absolutely damning of New 52.
Oh, I know.
Not one of the premier books, the top shelf books, was any good. Not one.
I mean, they were decent, but they could have been better. I think that's why we got Rebirth so fast.
Yeah, because it was awful. And Rebirth should have been a better reboot than it was. It was a very soft reboot.
Yeah.
But Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, they are not reboots. It is a new universe, just like the Ultimate Universe. It's totally separate. And it's really, really, really good.
Yeah, and you can tell that they
Yeah, Paul,
definitely.
I haven't gotten into that one yet either. I've got it in my my reading pile, but I just have not gotten to the TMNT Nightwatcher stuff. TMNT is way lower on my list of things that I prioritize. So ever since Jason Aaron took over, I've the regular TMNT title, I have not had much chance to catch up on that.
Yeah, and I did pick up that new Crow series that I guess is going to be a mini.
Yeah.
I picked it up, so we'll talk about it next week. But you can tell with where DC's been the past couple of years and what they've been building toward, they learned their lesson from New 52. And sorry, Marvel fans, but DC's kicking y'all's butt all over the map when it comes to comic books.
Much as that bothers me, I cannot argue that is a true statement.
Yep.
It really is.
And Matt, it's funny that you brought that up because that'll be referenced here later on tonight. But as far as that red band, that was the one panel.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the one panel. There's nothing special about these red bands. I'm enjoying Werewolf by Night, but I like those characters.
But the red band concept is not being employed there at all, and it's stupid.
It's really not. Now, who was it? Was it Nathaniel Saint that said there's nothing good? Okay, as far as Marvel is concerned, go back a few months, and you probably have to get the trade now, but pick up David Pepos' The Punisher. Read that series. I think it was what, 4 or 5 issues? Five issues. And then you can pick up Daredevil, Woman Without Fear. They're on issue number 3 because the Punisher is in this, and they're setting up this version of the Punisher and Elektra as the Daredevil Punisher that we got way back in the day.
Yep.
It's really good. I've enjoyed Woman Without Fear a lot more than what I thought I would. I think my favorite part of this book is when she basically realizes, I just went halfway around the world and you were only 11 blocks away. You're still in the neighborhood. I thought that was just great because that's the epitome of dumb luck.
That's funny.
Yeah, we hadn't had HR in a long time.
She's been loitering, but she hasn't had to come down and hit anybody for a while.
Well, we'll see if we can correct that later on this evening. Next up.
Now that's a smart play right there, Tots. A recipe swap with with Kalisa, yeah, that's a fantastic idea because she has got some doozies.
This one just came out last week. I think there was a couple of copies left on the shelf when I was there yesterday. I'm not sure, but I did pick up Revolution #9 by Mark London, Mad Cave Studios.
I've got that one. I haven't read it yet. How is it?
It's really good. It's honestly, at first, I kind of was reading it and I was like, what's actually going on here? And you'll feel like you're getting, say, Mad Cave's version of Black Widow.
Okay.
But then something happens and it completely and totally turns it. And you're like, okay, this story is going to end up being a lot deeper than what I thought it was. It was good. I like the art. I love Mark London's writing. I really do. There's a good twist in here. And unlike other books, not even by the end of this book, why she's turning against her organization. You've got the story that you actually need to carry you forward, and it's like justified, but there's a deeper story there. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of this series.
That's funny you mentioned Justified because Damon Hawk just turned me on to Justified, so I just started watching it not too long ago. Just finished the first season, got a couple episodes into the second season, and I like it.
Yeah, I've never watched that show.
Oh, you should. It's really good.
But yeah, this kind of give you an idea of the artwork.
That's good. I like that artwork.
Yeah, it's a solid book. It's definitely worth it. And to know that there's a meaning behind the number 9. Just like there's a meaning behind the number 7. There's 9 of them. There's 9 people that are trained this way in the entire world. So it's a really good concept. I like it. I can't wait to read more.
I would like to say, Paul, that Star Trek is fantastic, but unfortunately, you are correct. Star Trek is terrible, and they have so many titles out right now. Sons, Defiant, Star Trek, Next Generation. They've got like 7 or 8 different series, and it's a whole lot, and every last one of them is terrible. Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Next up, these books are coming 2 stories per book. The first story was phenomenal. It felt like something straight out of the 80s. It felt like an old school Moon Knight adventure. It's Phases of Moon Knight.
That was so good.
It was, but the second story in here was like some bizarre episode of The Twilight Zone.
Well, this set way far in the future. It was super weird.
Yeah.
That one wasn't my cup of tea. The second story was not my cup of tea, but that first one, oh man, that first one was great.
Yeah, and you're like, I kind of want to see him face off against this guy again.
100%. Yeah. The first story is in Phases of Moon Knight #2 is set in the 70s, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. And somebody's going around killing people, and Moon Knight's like, well, I guess we can't have that. I got to go beat the heck out of somebody. So he goes, well, we're actually going to talk about that here in a minute, Nate. It's not House of Mystery, but Hyde Street from Ghost Machine. Buddy, it's fantastic. But anyway, so he's facing off. He finally tracks down the guy who's running around killing people. And he faces off, and the guy says his name, says who he is. And he's like, nope, there's no way, because that dude's died in the 20s. So either you're really, really, really old, or you've stolen this other guy's name. And this guy's wearing a mask, and he takes the mask off. Now, you don't ever see it, but Moon Knight does. And he's like, if you keep going down the path you're going and doing what you're doing, you're going to turn into this too. So you have no idea what he just showed him. But then he leaves, and he's like, all right, you know what? You said to quit killing these people. I'm going to quit killing them. But the horrible things they're doing, that's on you now. And so you see Moon Knight kind of dealing with that, like, well, I don't like that either. But no, it was really well done. And just like in the first issue of Phases of the Moon Knight, the first story in there was a Knight Templar, so a medieval Moon
I
Knight.
need to bring that back so
And
bad.
oh man, I want to read a series about that guy. I want to read a series about at least a mini series that follows the story that they just gave us in the first half of Phases of the Moon Knight #2. Just phenomenal storytelling. The Moon Knight books continue to be exceptional.
Speaking of exceptional, and I'm not big on Marvel doing these like event stories. I really just I don't think they just don't excel there on any level for me, so I don't read them. But when one of them does cross over and it's a character or two characters that I do love, I've got to pick it up and read it because of those two characters. Please tell me who this person is because the name is just not ringing a bell. But the writer, his last name is Condon, Condon. And
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I don't know who this guy is or where he come from, but Venom War Daredevil was definitely my read of the week.
I haven't read that one yet. I read Venom War, the one with Silver Sable. I read that one,
Oh,
but I
it's
haven't
so
read
good.
Daredevil yet.
Basically, as far as Venom War is concerned, I'm not keeping up with it, but all the Venom zombie things are attacking the church where Father Matthew takes care of the kids and everything, the orphanage and all that. And Elektra is basically now inside the church, and she's the first line of defense. Well, Matt Murdock cannot change into his Daredevil outfit because the kids are there. So he's having to kind of do things as Father Matthew. And
Love that.
yeah, you've got oh crap, I can't think of his name. The other father is in the basement because there's a new church bell being delivered, and that's where they took it to. You've got Father Matthew upstairs, who's kind of, he's got to he's got to get away from the kids so he can help Elektra, but he's also got to get downstairs. Literally 90% of the comic book takes place in the church, in 3 rooms of the church, and that's it. His writing style, what he did with it, this book was literally perfect from beginning to end. And then when you see how he basically defeats all the Venom zombies as Father Matthew, makes it even better.
Is it the church bell?
It makes it even better.
I have to say this though. You touched on something I really like, which was it's Father Matthew. It's not Daredevil.
Yep.
And he has to do all these things as Father Matthew because the kids are there and he can't change into his other identity. I don't remember which issue number it was, and I don't remember if it was Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man. It was one of those back in the day, just a run-of-the-mill issue like issue 223 or whatever. But the story was Peter Parker was in the bank trying to deposit his paycheck when the bank got held up. He couldn't change into Spider-Man. Hey, appreciate you joining us, man. Looking forward to seeing you up at the shop, and hopefully you'll join us on Thursday nights going forward. Love to have you, man. But so he can't change into Spider-Man, but he has to do something to help stop these bank robbers. So it's him figuring out how to do what he needs to do, and that was a really cool constraint to do. And this one's got some of that same flavor from the sound of it, which makes me really excited because that's one of those issues that I have held on to in my brain for decades because that one really connected with me. I thought that was really clever and really well executed. So that sounds awesome for this one too. That's cool.
Yeah, and you're going to know, without giving too much away, one of the best panels and what's actually going on at the story is when Father Matthew starts leading them out. And that's all I'm going to say. You're going to know, you will, as soon as you get to that part of the book, you're going to be like, that's what he's talking about right there. So that was it for my books from last week. I got several others at the house I just didn't bring. But this week, there was a book coming out that I just had to get to the shop. I could not wait. I wished I knew somebody that lived close to me that still enjoyed coffee and still read comic books, Nick, so we could share that. But I had to go get this book because it's been driving me crazy and I've been wanting to read it. And I don't know how I feel about it. So we got 2 bonus books this week, and that is The Creeping Below.
Oh, I haven't got to read that yet.
This is what you need to know going into it. They're in Norway. If you would have
okay, I didn't know that.
If you would have just told me that in the very beginning of the book, it would have made a lot more sense with what was going on.
Because I thought that was just in Appalachia somewhere.
No, it's they're in, and the only reason why you know they're in Norway is because our main character, or at least in this book, our main character,
she makes a
comment about how she's had to get a connecting flight in Oslo, and her plane does not leave until in the morning. So you know she's in Oslo somewhere.
Okay.
Once you realize that she's in Norway, this whole death metal band scene that's going on makes a ton more sense.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah. This really and truly comes across as a cross between Old Gods of Appalachia meets Swamp Thing.
Interesting.
And you'll understand the Swamp Thing when you get to the end of the book. And
yeah,
it was good. I just wished I would have known in the very beginning we were in Norway. It would have made a lot more sense to me. Then this other little book that, I don't know, I picked it up. I thought, why not? We'll see what it's all about. And that was All In.
Flip it over.
All In.
Yeah, it's a flip book.
Yep, it's a flip book.
It's really smartly done. But before we talk about All In, we have to talk about Absolute Power #4.
So I have not read it yet.
That's a problem.
I jumped straight to All In. I've got to read Absolute Power #4.
Oh, Alan, you're killing me.
Just tell me all about it.
All right. Absolute Power #4, the culmination of this crossover series, right? So things started off really badly in Absolute Power #1. Things got worse in Absolute Power #2. Things started to turn around a little bit in Absolute Power #3. But coming into Absolute Power #4, if you haven't read Absolute Power #4 yet, make sure you read Wonder Woman #13 first. Because it explains a lot.
Is that the one with her and Steve are pretty much all over each other the entire issue?
It's not the entire issue, but it's enough to be hilarious because Damian is hanging around going like, that is so gross. You guys need to stop that. Quit. You're creeping me out.
See, to me, Damian and Wonder Woman are the new dynamic duo.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't hate Damian when he is on the comic page with Wonder Woman. When he's with Batman, I hate him. Not like I don't like him. I hate him.
And but
with Wonder Woman, it's different because he gives her grief, but he's kind of scared of her. But that's the cover right there.
And I love the little secondary stories with Trinity.
Yeah.
And is that the issue where he's basically telling the story to Trinity, but he's kind of telling it a little bit differently, where Wonder Woman praises him throughout the entire thing?
Yes, he's telling the same story, but it's so clearly his take on the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is these guys breaking into the prison where Amanda Waller is holding all of the heroes prisoner, and they don't have their powers in this book. Like Wonder Woman, she doesn't have any powers. She's just a trained warrior with a lot of history, a lot of experience, but no superpowers. And at one point, as they break in, these guys are like, she's nothing now. She had got any powers. We can take her out. And she uses her. They're like, don't be scared. She's just a girl with a sword, right? What have we got to be scared of? Well, they shoot at her and she blocks their bullets with her wrist. So you're thinking, well, maybe she does have her powers. That's not an easy thing to do, and you would think that's not going to happen. And then she stands there and she's like, she tells them what's what, and it's really, really good. And then people jump in, they help out, they save the day, and she pretty much collapses to the floor because her arms are broken where the bullets hit. Like they didn't penetrate the metal, but the impact was so strong it broke her arm. Uh, but you just see her heart, you see her bravery, and you see that she was not gonna she was gonna stand up to these guys, and she was gonna show them what's what, and it was extremely well executed, right? Well, the plan that is put into motion here culminates in Absolute Power number 4. So you see how that story comes about. It's got a very clever ending. They tell a guy early on, you do this and you're with me, and then he just disappears. You never see him again, and you don't think a thing about it until the very end when you're like, oh, I remember that. And oh, that was smart.
Yep.
That was clever. So there are some changes that have come about that will be a little bit different from the status quo. Like all these heroes' powers got taken away. They do figure out how to bring those powers back, and for the most part, the powers went back to the people who had them originally. But in some cases, they didn't. Some people got powers swapped, or some people got powers who didn't have powers before. And so now they're on the lookout. They're like, we got to go figure out who has these powers, because we don't know if that's a good guy, bad guy, or what. And so there are some downstream effects that will come from this that are unexpected, right? That you didn't think were going to happen. But the whole story, it's very satisfying. As far as if you were going to pit a summer blockbuster against another summer blockbuster, Blood Hunt was down here, and Absolute Power is way, 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 way up here. Absolute Power was just tremendously well executed. The writing was phenomenal. Mark Waid killed it. Dan Mora absolutely killed it with the art. It was great. Every aspect of that book was beautifully executed, and it is an extraordinarily satisfying 4-issue limited series by itself without any of the tie-ins. But one of the things that you see in this book and then in Absolute Power number 4 was the role that Green Arrow played in the whole Absolute Power storyline. Because early on, he very much appears to be a traitor. And he absolutely was a traitor. But by that same measure, he was 100% not a traitor. And the way that they reveal that is awesome. How he could be both without being the one that was wrong was really cleverly done. And the reason that they did it and why he did it, really, really clever. And well explained, so that you don't walk away going, I don't know, I think that's garbage.
Okay.
If you can accept the conceit that comic books are real and we have aliens and gods and goddesses and all that stuff, you can accept this conceit of how they achieved this, and you will accept it and be like, that was clever within the confines of this world, and it was really well executed.
So going into the All-In special, and I know this just came out yesterday, and a lot of people have not read it, so I'll try not to do too many spoilers. At the end of
we're about to go into that and talk about exactly that, Bill. So we will be diving into that right now.
So at the end of the All Out, at the end of Absolute Power 4, does it go into more of what they are creating in the beginning of this with the cards?
It touches on it.
Okay.
It touches on it, and that's part of what Green Arrow says. Is he says part of how this whole thing came about. One of the downstream effects of this is because we abandoned the Justice League. He says we abandoned the Justice League, and he said the Titans did a great job, but part of this happened because we weren't in constant communication like we used to be. We didn't have any way of reaching out to each other like we used to. So things that we would have caught, that we would have seen, that we would have talked about, that we would have done something about, went unchecked and unnoticed and unchecked. Um, so that's where they decide, we need the Justice League back. We need the Justice League back. So that's what we're gonna do.
And
And so that's what they did. I will say there was one bit where Batman says something to Green Arrow about his secret plan that he enacted with the help of Martian Manhunter in Absolute Power, and that nobody else knew about. And Green Arrow's like, "You're one to talk about having secret plans." I was like, "Touche."
so the gist of it is I guess here's my big question. This card that they create, there's something about this card or the way that they created it. I'll get out a second. That is what awakened whatever this was inside of Darkseid. I mean, that's kind of the way that I took it. It's something about it called to him.
Well, they use Booster Gold. Hey, and what's wrong with hot dogs? Hot dogs are delicious, and we love them.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they say Nathan's on them. Oh.
I like a good Nomad's Road Dog if you're here in town. They usually are set up on the corner of Governor's Drive and the Parkway. They're at Parkway Scrubs during the week during lunch, and holy smokes, that's good hot dogs. See, he knows exactly how to derail us. Boom, we're talking about hot dogs. Don't come on here talking about pizza. We'll be here all day. But I don't think it's the card itself so much as it is this colossal historic moment where they reformed the Justice League, right? But they use Booster Gold to tell a lot of the story, which seems like a really odd choice. But Booster Gold is from the future, right? And he got into superheroing because he worked at the museum to the heroic age, right? And he remembers that. And he remembers this particular Justice League card that was on display in the museum. And so we kind of find out the story behind that and what's going on. But the big deal that happens is it's critical to point out that the DC All-In Special is a flip book. So if you start at the beginning on one side, you get to the middle, there's a big splash page. You flip the book over, you start reading from the other side, you get back to that exact same splash page, and it works in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
And being a traditionalist, I started with the heroes that we know today. I started on that side, and then I flipped it over and read it the other way. Which way did you read it?
I did the same thing, and maybe it was just the way that I picked the book up. I don't know. That was the direction I went with it. One thing that I did notice, which Booster Gold is really and truly not one of those characters that I've ever been kind of attached to or anything.
Oh, definitely not. He's always irritated me to death.
The way this was done, I'm not going to say I was emotionally invested in his story, but the way it was done, I'm definitely invested in his story, and I want to know what's, without giving away a big massive spoiler. Literally this book, this splash page in the center of the book leads to something that Booster Gold sees.
Yep.
I mean, it's no matter which way you read it, it's still leading toward Booster Gold, what he sees. And I thought that was brilliant the way that they did it. But they
Oh,
did it.
it was very cleverly executed, and it's on the story. You couldn't tell a story like that in a movie.
Yeah.
It works in this medium because of the confines of the medium, the structure of the medium, and the way that the comic book itself, the physical comic book, works. And it was really well executed. It's brilliantly done from a mechanical perspective. It's really, really well done.
Yeah, and it does kind of give you that moment right there at that when that does happen. And I want to know what's going to happen next with Booster Gold. And I've never said that in
In
almost
your
40
entire
years.
life.
Yeah, almost 40 years of reading comic books. I've never said what's about to happen to Booster Gold.
Yeah, I thought they did a smart thing here where they showed his evolution as a character, because one of the things when he first came out, he's this guy from the future, and he's got his own little personal flying robot Skeets running around with him to videotape everything he does. And yeah, that right there.
And to give y'all an idea, they did not skimp on the art on the heroes side.
No, not at all. But he was all about, I'm a hero so that people can see me being a hero, right? And he wants the likes and he wants all this stuff. And that was before the internet existed, before social media existed, any of that. But that's who he was and what he was doing. And now you've seen he's growing up. He's getting past all that stuff and realizing that that's just superficial garbage, and he doesn't need that. And the talk from Superman that Superman gives him, I thought was just really well done. And it did automatically make you more sympathetic to Booster Gold, right? Where he might have irritated you before, now you're very sympathetic to Booster Gold. But the outcome of absolute power, this transition of all these powers that had been taken away and siphoned off one by one, suddenly exploding back into the world, I think is actually the catalyst that woke up Darkseid, so to speak.
Yeah, because he's basically what Darkseid is wanting to know about this power that's been hidden from him. And why has it, and the way that it kind of comes across is when he sees that card that does not have a member on it, like to symbolize the next member. It was almost like he focused in on that. So I kind of thought, okay, is that, was that what called to him? Is that what woke up this, whatever it is inside of him?
The thing that he has decided has been hidden from him, it's kind of twofold, I think. There is a person with powers that he has decided has been hidden from him, and he has to go and find that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's him looking for that person. When he finally finds that person, something happens that is terrible. And I don't mean terrible from a storytelling perspective. I mean, it's terrible, the consequences of what could come from this, right? Darkseid is already like a primordial power of the universe. He's extraordinarily powerful.
And I like the way they explain that.
Right. But when you take him and then you bring in one of the oldest things in the DC universe that exists, one of the oldest and most powerful things besides God himself, and I think at this point we can probably tell people, it's the Spectre, the entity that is the Spectre, and that entity will bond with people like Corrigan and these guys over time. We'll pick this person and we'll bond with that person, and they can control its powers. It's kind of like the Phoenix in a way in the Marvel universe, a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
More focused on death and less on the resurrection part that Phoenix represents. But if you give Darkseid, who is already this extraordinary powerful creature, if you give him the powers of the Spectre on top of that, you have all the ingredients for universal destruction. But there's a weird thing that happened on the way to the forum, and it's like Darkseid has lost interest in the driving force to like kill and do it. Uh, and it's interesting. So part of the outcome of this is you get to the middle part of the story, and two things really are accomplished here. You get the relaunch of the Justice League, but they call it Justice League Unlimited because they're making a lot of heroes members of the Justice League.
And I love that we got that as unlimited because that kind of pays homage to the old cartoon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just thought that was great. I got a kick out of that.
I did too. But so one major thing that comes out of this DC All-In special is the relaunch of the Justice League, and that's really cool. The way that they did it, their philosophy behind doing it, it's really well done. But the other thing that comes of it, and this is when you flip the book over and read it from the other direction, is the launch, thanks to Darkseid, of the absolute universe. It's a world where everything is fundamentally different. And so, as a showcase for that, part of what makes you're saying, okay, is because the first question you asked me when I told you I've read a retailer preview of Absolute Batman #1 is that Bruce Wayne? It is absolutely Bruce Wayne. It is fundamentally Bruce Wayne. But it's a Bruce Wayne who comes from different circumstances. He has no money. This is a Bruce Wayne who had to get real clever and figure out how to do things that the Bruce Wayne with tons of money just, make that. I designed it, but I got 5 bills of these made. This is a Bruce Wayne who had to figure this stuff out. This is a Bruce Wayne who doesn't have a computer with all the diagrams of everything in the city on it. This is a Bruce Wayne who had to figure out a way to get to know every nook and cranny of that city and things that he shouldn't know, but he does.
So are we, since he no longer had, or at least this version of Bruce Wayne, since he does not have like the computer and the resources that, or I'll just say our Bruce Wayne has, are we going to see more of the detective side of him? Because he's got to like really hunt this stuff down and figure it out now.
Now, I don't know if that will be the case going forward, but they certainly built that into his character because he's a younger guy. I think he's 24 years old in this, but how he has picked up all the knowledge that he has of the city and all of those things comes from him using that kind of detective brain.
Okay.
How can I figure this out? How can I learn that? How can I take on this job and do that? And how can I do all these things? I will say the introduction of Alfred in this absolute universe is going to kick your butt.
Really?
You are going to love Absolute Alfred. You might dress up as Absolute Alfred for Halloween.
Oh, well, I might just do that just for the random show one night. You never can tell.
It is. Our show is on a Halloween this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I won't be
We'll have
here.
to think about that, won't we? Because doorbell will be going off the whole night. But anyway, Absolute Universe is kicked into gear. Absolute Wonder Woman, for example, she is not raised on the island, the Paradise Island of Themyscira. She's raised in hell.
Now, okay.
So you take Wonder Woman and you change that fundamental aspect of where she came from. She is raised in hell. But that doesn't change what's inside of her. And it's really interesting to see.
So is this version of Wonder Woman going to be more like the version of Wonder Woman that we see in Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age?
Because hard to tell. I've only gotten to read the first issue.
Yeah.
And it's mostly the origin story kind of thing. So I haven't got to see enough of her to know. But I suspect that's probably the case.
Okay, because here's some of the things that I really enjoyed about this book. I enjoyed the fact that we got the callback to what was it, Dark Knight's Metal?
There was a callback there, yes.
Yeah, there was a callback to that. I like how they did the whole explaining how this absolute world come into existence, how they it was kind of a hidden world because it was a brand new world and it had not technically formed yet.
Yep.
I loved how they said that.
I like that they just cut off the entire rest of the multiverse.
Yes, they cut
Thank
that
God,
off.
it's all gone.
But at the same time, though, they still acknowledged its existence on some level because of the whole spiel that we had about it all exists right here. It's just on a different vibrational wave.
But the flashes have that's always been the case though,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
but the flashes could vibrate through it. Now they can't.
Yeah, and see, I kind of like the way that they said it's still here, but we can't get to it, but we can get to this one.
Yeah, they closed the door. And it wasn't even that they could get to the one, they just know it exists.
Yeah. So I've really, really enjoyed this a lot more than what I thought I would because it opens up so many possibilities.
Well, it's exactly what it is intended to do, and it does it really, really well.
It does. They were very smart about it. There was, and this is something that I kind of, at first I was like, what's going on here? Why is this being done this way? But then I looked at the overall presentation of the book, and y'all bear with me because I'm about to get a little weird on you. If you go from the hero side of it, all of the art is very clean, very bright, very well done. It almost gives you like a sense of hope because that's the story that's being told.
100%.
Then when you go to the dark side of it, it is the art.
It's more inky. It's thicker, heavier lines.
It's
darker colors.
It comes across as angry.
Yeah.
I mean, and then when you get to the center, it's like both worlds converge. And I just thought that to me was like a very cool, subtle touch.
As again, one of those things, like the mechanics of the medium are being implemented perfectly here. It's well thought out in every detail. When we had Howard Chaykin on and he was talking about using comic book panels and telling stories on the page and the ways to be creative with that. I still don't think this would meet with his approval because I don't know that a lot does. But they implemented a lot of creative things here that comic books let you do that other mediums don't. And they did it beautifully, culminating in that big splash page in the middle. Which one of the things I liked was there's two words on that splash page, and one word is facing you. When you read it one way, is right side up, but the other word is right side up when you read it the other way.
Yep.
And it was really clever. And yes, Snyder can be an amazing writer. I don't always love everything he does, but he can absolutely be an amazing writer. One of the best stories of 2023 was the 3-issue limited series that came out from Dark Horse called Clear.
Yep.
And Snyder wrote that. It was great. He also wrote Canary.
And on Clear and Canary are two books that even, what was Clear 2022 or 2023?
23. Early 2023, if I recall. But,
God, that seems like it was 100 years ago.
Well, it's late 2024 now, so.
That is one 3-issue series, and they are oversized issues that I could not recommend enough for y'all if y'all can get them, or if Josh can still order them. If it's a trade now, I don't know.
It's a trade. Yeah, we can order the trade.
That is one of the best series that I have ever read, period. But to give y'all an idea of what we're talking about, if you look on this panel on the heroes side, we've got Wonder Woman.
Let me embiggen you here so we can see you a little bit better.
So if you look, we have Wonder Woman. That is the classic Wonder Woman we all know and love. That's what we're used to. But then when you go to the absolute universe side where that dark side is creating, we get another shot of the absolute Wonder Woman, completely and totally different. And I like the way that they did that. I like the way that it was the entire presentation of it was great, and I thought this was an absolute chilling shot.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, the whole thing. It's one of those that pick if you did not read Absolute Power, you could still read this, and I think you'll be fine.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll be
it's
fine.
well designed. It's a totally encapsulated story. You don't have to have read anything else.
Yeah, if you're wanting something new and something fresh that we can, because we honestly can say right now, we have no idea which direction they're going or what's going to happen. We don't get to say that a ton in comic books.
Yeah.
But right now, we can honestly say it. And if you want in on something that's definitely going to be new and fresh and different, you have got to pick this book up and read it.
It's a fantastic culmination of Absolute Power, the 4-issue limited series, while being a simultaneous one-shot launch point for a new universe. Um, and what it spells out for what's coming in the regular DC universe um, is so good. See, okay, all right, Daniel. You went back, you read it, and it's good. Have you read number 4 yet? Because the culmination of that I thought was really well executed, uh, but really good stuff. But anyway, Absolute Power. The end of that, the all-in special is great, and then the spin-off of this new Absolute universe while the regular universe is ongoing. I want to stress that to people. This is not a relaunch. This is a separate universe. Um, and the regular universe is going to keep on trucking, and the Absolute universe is starting. Absolute Batman #1 I have read, and I went into it. I gotta, if I full honesty, full confession, I really was expecting it to be a big old plate of hot garbage. I just couldn't see it. I'm like, what is the deal here? What is going on? And I walked away eating crow, not garbage. I was absolutely eating crow because it was brilliantly done. It's dark, but not like depressing dark. It's just a tough world, and it's really interesting. Um, I was really impressed by it. I was impressed by the writing. Was impressed by the art. The stupid bat symbol logo didn't irritate me nearly as much as I thought it would. The story is there. There's some interesting twists. There's one I have not revealed that I'm not going to reveal. I want that to hit you guys when you see it. You're like, oh, holy crap!
Now, is this an Absolute Batman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Like I told you, there is such a thing as an Absolute Alfred.
Yep.
He does exist. But who he is, what he is, how all that, it's great. But there's another character that I have not revealed, and I will not. You need to just see it. It's great. It changes everything in a really fundamental and interesting way that I really like. Jumping over to Ultimate Wonder Woman, the very act of taking this baby and saying, you know what, you are not going to be raised on Themyscira, Paradise Island. None of that for you. You're going to be raised in hell by this one person who has been banished to hell. And that one person, fundamentally, that one person cannot say the word Amazon. Like they've stripped that away. She can't say it. So Wonder Woman is raised without knowing what she is, who she is, any of this stuff. But what's inside of her is still there. It's always been there, and it's always because it's fundamental to her. And but you just the changing the setting from one place to the other. What does that do? How does that affect the kind of person this is? And as you saw in the all-in special, there, she didn't have an invisible jet. She's got a skeletal Pegasus.
See,
it's horrifying, and yet it's awesome.
That kind of reminded me of that thing in the Harry Potter that they rode.
Oh, the
that only certain people could see them?
I vaguely recall that. But no, it's Wonder Woman #1 reads. It has a feel of a fantasy book almost. It's very much a superhero book set in the kind of DC universe, but it has a feel a little bit of a like an epic kind of a fantasy book. There's that feel to it a little bit. I'm very curious to see what you guys want to take. I haven't had an opportunity. I haven't seen anything on the where I've had an opportunity to read Absolute uh, Superman yet. I'm looking forward to that.
He kind of looks a little weird to me.
He does, but I'll tell you what. My they've built up equity with me. They have built up equity with me with Batman #1 or the Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman. I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to put my skepticism uh, by the front door and not bring it in with me because I've really been wildly impressed with Absolute Batman #1 and very impressed with Absolute Wonder Woman. Your question there is how does it compare with Rucka's Wonder Woman run? Totally different. Kind of like what we were talking about with that feeling the art style has in the All In special on the dark side of the story, where it's darker, it's grittier, it's a lot more inky, less polished and finished, and that's a purposeful choice. Um, that's it's not just the art style. The art style is appropriate to the flavor of the story and what's going on. It's very different. There are some parallels, I guess, between Rucka's Wonder Woman run and this, but it is very, very different. Just the basic construct of she is raised in hell changes everything, and it's really fascinating. Who's writing Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Superman? I want to say Josh Williamson is writing Absolute Wonder Woman.
I just looked at it, and it's Kelly Thompson.
Kelly Thompson. Okay.
Yeah.
Josh Williamson may be doing Superman. I think he's doing one of the Absolute books.
And there is a particular cover of this Absolute Wonder Woman that I need this cover.
Which one?
The Jeff DeCal, the cardstock variant.
You'd have to show it to me. I don't remember which one he did.
Oh, come on.
But suffice to say, just so you guys are aware, I have always been much, much, much more a Marvel guy than a DC guy. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. And those tattoos on her right arm, pretty cool. Jason Aaron, thank you. Appreciate that, Mike. I've always been more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy. Always. Spider-Man, Avengers, X-Men, Moon Knight, Daredevil, all these guys much more my cup of tea. I was always a Marvel guy who liked Batman, and I think there was a lot of us running around that fit in that boat. But the past couple of years, DC has really refocused on telling good stories, not trying to make money grabs and all that stuff, just telling good stories. And that has paid off for them dividends over and over and over again. I'm reading more DC books now than I've ever read in my life, and I'm loving them. They're great. I still have some issues with some characters that I just can't like wrap my head around in a positive way, like Plastic Man and the Elongated Man. I'm like, why? I don't. But for some reason, Mr. Fantastic works for me. Like, it's stupid. Right? It's just dumb. But for some reason, he works, they don't, and I don't know. But really, I like a lot of these. An absolute Swamp Thing would be terrifying. I try to picture what that character would look like, and I think it would just be absolutely terrifying. It might well be an awesome book.
What I just looked at, we're showing absolute Batman, absolute Wonder Woman, absolute Superman, and then not too long after that, we'll be getting absolute Green Lantern and absolute Flash.
Yep.
Now, anything beyond that is not on League of Comic Geeks, so I don't know what.
And they're purposefully slow rolling some of that to see what sticks and what doesn't. And I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is to just saturate the marketplace with here's a whole new universe. Here's everybody's got their own book, and you don't want
Kind
to
of what
do
they
that.
do with X-Men.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to be smart. That said, and this is going to come across as really stupid potentially. What I would be really interested in, I don't know interested enough to read a series, but I'd be really interested in the concept is what in the world would an absolute Aquaman look like in this world?
See, I was thinking absolute Hawkman.
That could be too. Hawkman's one of those guys who always looked really good to me, and he had a couple of limited series in the 90s that I picked up, but I've never been able to sustain an interest in him because his story's too weird. He's an alien. He's from Egypt. He's been reincarnated a million times. It's just always been too weird.
He's a great supporting character.
Yeah.
Or, what would an absolute, I mean, I know we won't get it. What would an absolute Dr. Fate look like?
Okay, that would be cool too. But no, Nate, I see, and I agree. Typically, Aquaman's a snooze fest for me. I don't care for him, but I have to wonder in this absolute universe where these things are so fundamentally different. What advantages do they have or not have? Whatever. What? How would that affect Aquaman? What would be different about him or his circumstance? And how would he rise above that? How would he still become the kind of hero that he needs to be? And I don't know. I don't have any ideas even on what that would look like, but I get the impression that it would be really interesting to see. And especially with how dark that world is, I picture the difference, the underwater world, the monsters. I bet that would be cool. And not Amanda Waller. I will say I think they're putting Amanda Waller in a box for a while because I think they recognize that we all have Amanda Waller fatigue, and the way they do that in Absolute Power #4 is very, very clever. Absolute Aquaman raised in the desert. Yeah, what if he never knew he had powers? What if he was purposefully raised in the desert so he would never know? That would be really interesting. I would be curious to see that. How old is he when he comes to discover that he has powers? And how did that come about? I mean, there could be some really good stuff. I have to agree. Peter David's run on Aquaman with Jim Calafiore on the art, that was a good, solid run on Aquaman back in the 90s. I did enjoy that. For 10 issues or 12 issues or whatever. I stuck around for it, but I did enjoy that. That was pretty good. But yeah, I think great summary there, Daniel. They have done a great job for a long time with small groups, and you tend to be right. But I would be happy if they just kept it that way. Why upset the apple cart? Don't try to put too many apples in it. Just keep telling stories with the characters you got, doing a good job with the groups that you have. And you do mess around with them a little bit, like putting Damian and Wonder Woman together. Last thing I ever thought I would want to read, and yet I found that I did not absolutely loathe Damian with every fiber of my being when he's in a book with Wonder Woman.
Now, do you know if there are plans for a DC Unlimited, a Justice League Unlimited comic book based off of what we got in this?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a Justice League book.
So, to me, and this is what I would like to see, and I know it's probably not going to happen, if they're going to do a Justice League Unlimited book, not off of the cartoon, but based off of what we got in here,
right?
I would like it if they did it in the style of G.I. Joe.
Yes, where you focus on a main group of characters and occasionally bring in other characters.
Yeah,
and every now and again, a story will focus on somebody else.
Yeah, you can always rotate the characters out. You could put teams together that you would never see.
Yep.
Just because it's Justice League does not mean that it's got to be the big 7 in every single issue.
I would even argue it shouldn't be.
I mean, you could, if it's Justice League Unlimited, you could even cross up and do like a split, half Justice League Dark, half Justice League Unlimited. You know, have them teaming up for whatever. You know, I mean, how bizarre would it be if you did a really good team up and it's Detective Chimp and Hawkman? You know, it's always going to be something fresh. But if you look at this splash page in the center of the book,
Yep. There's a lot to study in there, isn't there?
there really is, but there's one particular character, and I'm going to ask you this off screen because I know who I think it should be, but I don't know if it's who it really is.
That's what I'm hoping for, Mike.
And then there's a couple other characters on here, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that could be interesting. Especially there's one particular villain on this splash screen, and there's one particular hero, I say splash screen, on this splash page that the absolute versions of them could be terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm purposely not telling y'all because I don't want to spoil this page for y'all, these 2 pages.
That page is just worth studying.
Yeah, it really is. It's not one of those that you're going to be like, okay, well, that was cool, and put it down. I mean, I've caught myself looking at it like 3 or 4 times. Oh, yeah, that would be great right there. That would be great.
Yeah. You talk about dark. Whew. I will say one story that they have already solicited is a limited series. I want to say it's called Watchtower or something like that. Because you saw in early on in the book when they're kind of introducing everybody, and they introduced the question as kind of like the person keeping everything, in order and together there on the Watchtower.
Yeah, see, I like that too. I thought that was cool.
Well, one of the first things that happens is there's a murder, I believe. There's some crime that is committed on the Watchtower. And so it's a limited series of her trying to investigate that and put that to rights. And I went from not being remotely interested in that to now I very much want to read it.
And that's not. I did like the way they described the new Watchtower.
I did too.
It's not just a base of operations. It's a home. It's where people can live. So I thought that was kind of cool. But it also kind of there for just a second. I kind of had flashbacks to Magneto's moon base.
I did too. I'm not gonna lie, I did too. But on the whole, Absolute Power was a phenomenal event book for DC. The ending was very satisfying. The way that they got there was very satisfying. There are going to be long-term consequences from certain aspects. Like the majority of things have gone back to status quo, as you would expect from an event like this that happens in continuity. But not all of them. There are some things that are still hanging out there that could cause ripple effects for years downstream. Could absolutely cause ripple effects for years. And I think it puts Waller away for a while so we don't have to worry about her, because I know if other people feel like me, I've got Amanda Waller fatigue. I have had for some time. But now I don't have to worry about her for a while.
Part of that is because this Absolute Power storyline has really and truly been building for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely went with the long game on this one, and it ended up paying off.
It really did.
I mean, it paid dividends, but it was kind of, I'm like everybody else. It was the only time she did not get on my nerves is when she was being referenced in the Green Arrow book, because in the very beginning of it, there's something more going on. That they're setting something up. So it wasn't as nerve-wracking there.
I will say I liked in Absolute Power #1 when you finally got to see what she was building toward and you saw how terrifying she could be when she had all the power to do what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great. I'm just tired of like inept villains all the time. And she's got, honestly, her motivations aren't all evil. Uh, so she's got that kind of, she's not the villain in her story. She's the hero in her story kind of thing going on. She's just willing to do whatever she has to realize her vision. But that said, I thought Absolute Power played out brilliantly, really well executed. The DC All In special blew me away. I was very excited. And so, for anybody who's interested, well, I want the first appearance of this character or that character. Your first appearance of Absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman is in this DC All In special. Your first appearance of this, I hesitate to use the term, new and improved Dark Side is in this Absolute special or All In special #1. So if you want a book that has got all these first appearances and such in it, this is it. Also, the death of I don't say major character, but the apparent death of a character who's been around for a long time. You remember when he had his own comic book with that stupid jewel on the front made out of plastic? You remember that? We all had to have one.
I was trying to, because I remember seeing Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, because there's Absolute Wonder Woman. I showed y'all her. Okay, yeah. I'm curious as to what's going on with this Absolute Superman.
Me too. I'm really curious to know.
Because it looks like there's parts of him glowing.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
So in Absolute Batman, I think I made this comment to somebody on Twitter. I'm not going to say who I was having this conversation with because they're an upcoming guest as of right now, and I kind of want to hold off before we announce that. But I was having a conversation. I was kind of having a conversation with this person, and they said, "Hey, doesn't it look like Space Ghost and the new Absolute Batman are sharing protein shake recipes?"
Yes, that's a great line, and it's so true.
And I said, no, the new Absolute Batman looks like he ate all the other Batmen while drinking a protein shake on the way to the gym. This dude is a friggin' beast.
Oh, yeah, he's an absolute monster. They were talking about that dude who's playing Jack Reacher on the Amazon series. It's like he wanted to be Batman.
I think
he wouldn't be a good Batman.
See, he would be
he wouldn't. He would be a fantastic absolute Batman.
I think he would be a good Batman.
I don't.
He said he's already played Aquaman.
So
he played Aquaman in Smallville.
I could not care less.
I see he needs to play Batman. Who do you think should play Batman?
I don't know. But not him.
This is going to be the brave and the bold version of Batman. So,
I would, like I said, I think he would make a fantastic absolute Batman.
Okay, sheer size alone.
It's one of the problems, right? Batman is not a huge hulking character, but in the absolute world, he is.
But if you look at Ben Affleck Batman, he looked like a beast. Ben Affleck put on some muscle to play that role.
What's up, Keith? How you doing?
See, I know a lot of people want that, and I think that Jensen Ackles would be a really good one. But honestly, I would rather see Jensen Ackles play Hal Jordan. I know we're not going to get that, but that's who I'd rather see him play.
Though I do like the guy they have playing Hal Jordan on the Lantern series.
Oh, yeah, they did a really good job. I mean, casting it, they've done a good job.
He's a little long in the tooth, but he still looks young enough that he could, if they get rid of the white, that he could play younger.
Yeah, the whole thing about him playing Hal Jordan and being older, that to me that explains him leaving Earth and being gone for a while.
Yep.
So like they say they don't know about him, it would explain, hey, he's been off training somewhere for several years.
Well, it could be that, or it could just be that opens up the relationship between him and Jon Stewart differently.
Yeah.
I mean, for that matter, they might even bring Kyle Rayner in. We don't know. As long as they don't put anybody in the refrigerator.
That's a good one.
That is a good. I picture you more as a Spider-Man kind of guy myself, but that works. But yeah, no, I know we hadn't talked about a lot of comics. Let me see what else I got here to talk about that I've gotten a chance to read. It's been a busy couple of weeks. See, I've got a big stack I got to get through here.
Yeah, I've still got a couple at the house that I have not read yet, and I really need to get caught up on Transformers. I'm behind on that.
There's my Venom War Daredevil. Haven't read that yet.
No, they're so good.
Oh, Lethal Protectors. That's the one I read that has Silver Sable in it.
Oh, okay.
The little opening bit is fantastic. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This just came out this week, guys.
And
Hyde Street #1. I got to tell you, just so you guys have some sense of this. This book, if you remember when you were a kid and you would watch an episode of Twilight Zone, and you were really kind of too young to get it, but you knew that it freaked you out. Like, whatever they did, however that worked, that mysterious place that shouldn't have been, but there it was, and it freaked you out. Hyde Street gives that exact same feeling, except you're an adult, so you're not freaked out. You're just like, interesting. I want to know more. This feels so very, 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 very much like the Twilight Zone in the coolest possible way. It's fantastic. The artwork is exquisite. It's creepy. There's room for a million different kinds of stories here. And I'm looking forward to that. There's a mystery involved here. There is the protagonist has got a long-term goal, something that he wants to do. And there's a mystery of, is he going to be able to do it? And you really don't know. It's not like it's clear that, this is going to turn out happily. Probably not. They've already got a one-shot coming out for this book, which I thought was a really weird choice because you've got the series now. But they have a one-shot coming out in a couple of weeks called Hyde Street Devour. And I thought that was a really bad idea. But after having read this, I think it's probably going to be a brilliant idea because I really want to see what's going on in that book now. If you have not picked up Hyde Street, if you like the kind of horror that's like Twilight Zone, that it wasn't grotesque, it wasn't hideous, but it got in your head, this is very much the Twilight Zone in that respect. And I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend it. Very powerful book. Very well done. But that's I think that's it for me as far as things that I just really, really wanted to talk about tonight.
Well, man, we did cover a ton of All In, which, I mean, it's justifiable because it's weird that, to me, that DC spent all this time building the absolute power. It got better and better and better and better and better. And they've done such a great job with, here it is, here's the climax, this is what we've been building toward, and bam, this is what we're hitting you with All In.
And Mark Waid did it brilliantly. He executed it absolutely brilliantly.
We led you all the way up to this just to push you off the cliff into something else that you're going to want to read.
Well,
And
that was the thing, right? They laid all of these breadcrumbs out over such a long period of time that you didn't realize that they were breadcrumbs that were leading anywhere. And
mhm.
then once you started to realize it and you started to backtrack and look back at, oh my God, they led way back to that, way back to that, way back to that. That's genius at the editorial level. That's fantastic.
this this right here is why I say that DC is kicking Marvel's butt all over the place,
Yes.
because this is how it's supposed to be done.
Yes, this is a
Where
prime example of how it should be.
Yeah, and you had the best thing. Jed McKay probably said, "Hey, this is what I want to do with Moon Knight," and Marvel come back and said, "No, we're going to do it everywhere." And then all of a sudden, we've got this Blood Hunt debacle. You know,
Right.
it was
Which it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great.
no, it just wasn't great. And then we've got what was it a few years ago? It was decent up to a point, and then it became a major letdown, and that was Avengers: No Surrender.
Oh, yeah. That had a couple of good elements to it, but for
Yeah,
the
a
most
couple of
part
good
was just
elements.
it had no point.
Yeah, there was no point to. Ultimately, it was a chess game.
Empire was terrible. That
Yeah,
had no point. That came and went and nobody noticed. It had no impact. Nobody
yep,
talked about it before it, nobody talked about it during it, nobody talked about it afterwards.
yeah, and it's DC has
Yeah.
they're firing on
Follow the
all
mutants.
cylinders,
Yeah.
and they've done it right. And I know that I sound like a fanboy right now, but at the same time, I read DC and Marvel both.
Yep.
There are some books, there are some Marvel books right now that if you paid me, that might be the only you. They would have to pay me to get me to read them and do a review on them. I'm not buying these crappy books. It's just not happening. There are other books with Marvel: Moon Knight, Fantastic Four,
Daredevil.
Daredevil, this new Punisher. Absolutely love them. I mean, just love them. There are other books at Marvel. No, it's just not happening. But
And
when
then you've got a ton of great indie books. It's a
yeah,
fantastic time to be reading comics. We have a lot of great choices.
yeah, but when you jump over to DC right now, DC, it's hard to find a book that's not good. It might not be your cup of tea, but it's
But it's
still
well executed. I'll
but
give
it's
you that.
still well executed, and it's still a good book. Like, I'm not that big a fan of Green Lantern, but everybody I know is raving about this Green Lantern book. Everybody that's
Yep.
read it.
Yep. And I'm
Um,
looking forward to Tom Taylor taking over on Detective with 1090.
yeah. I mean, that's gonna I can't wait to see if I know he can do it because he's a very, very, very talented writer, but I want to see how dark he's willing to get with Detective.
What it needs to be a totally different flavor from Nightwing,
Yeah.
and I think he can do that. I want him to do that. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Zdarsky. Zdarsky gave us one of the best Daredevil runs that could arguably be the best Daredevil run we've ever seen.
Yep.
Um, and then he jumps over and starts doing Batman, and it feels like it's a completely and totally different writer.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, it's so I'm kind of hoping to see Tom Taylor do something along those same lines.
You know, I don't blame you one bit. Savage Avengers was way better than it had any right to be. Hey, I got this idea. Let's put this wackadoo Avengers team together. Okay, what else can we do? Oh, let's put Conan on there too. Conan, are you out of your mind? But it was great. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. All right, well, we have come about to the end of our night tonight. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Man, phenomenal discussion going on in the chat tonight. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. And again, for anybody who didn't see the beginning, we got a lot of comic book folks who have been affected by Hurricane Helene. Comic shops and comic book fans, other podcasts, things like that. If you guys watch this, if you see this, if you know us, if you can reach out and let us know if there's any way we can help, we will sound the call and we will mobilize our folks and we will help however we can to the best of our ability. Just want you guys to all know we're thinking about you and hoping for the best for you guys. And we will pitch in tangentially, physically, however we can to help get support to you that you need. So thanks for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it. Anything you want to say to sign off, Alan?
Read more comics. Pick up All In.
Yeah, definitely need to do that. Pick up All In. Pick up Absolute Batman. You're not going to regret it. And we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks, guys. We are out.